I'm Davy. I'm awesome. And welcome to Davy's Awesome Wrestling, where I review wrestling-related things all from the perspective of a fan, not an insider. So in the past, I've ranked different types of championships many times, never really ranked women's championships, because most women's championship belts, the designs themselves are terrible. Like seriously, you could tell that up until recently, more often than not, when they were designing a women's championship, it was just like, okay, we got women wrestling, give them something. And no real effort was ever put into it. And even if there was, it still came out horrible. However, in recent years, we've been taking women's wrestling more seriously, and it's trickling down to the belts to where I can actually finally do a top 11 women's championships, because now there's finally 11 championships that I like. Actually, there were 12. Only one that I like didn't make the list. So before we get into this, let me remind you, this is all my personal opinion based on nothing but the designs of the belts themselves. It's not based on the prestige, it's not based on how big the company is, it's not based on how good the current championship holder might be. It's just my personal opinion based on the looks and designs of these belts. Let's get into it. In at number 11, the second version of the AEW Women's World Championship. I remember when they debuted this one, which was only slightly different looking than the first version, which I did not like at all. Hated that one. This one, I was like, okay, this looks much better. And all they did was have it go from being a 7-plate belt to a 5-plate belt and make the plates themselves slightly larger and flatter, but it gave it a whole new look, and it actually looked really good. Because up until then, I was like, okay, all the AEW belts look good except for their women's championship. Now it was like, okay, all the AEW championships look great. In at number 10, the NXT Women's Tag Team Championships. The only reason I haven't praised this design more in other videos is because I'm not a big fan of let's make the women's championship look almost just like the men's championship. Because as it is, the NXT Women's Tag Team Championship looks very similar to the men's. The only difference is the strap is white, and on the plates it's gold on nickel versus on the men's it's nickel on gold. But either way, I like the NXT Men's Tag Team Championships, and these ones I like almost as much. I would probably just like them better if they were just more of their own. But they're still beautiful. In at number 9, the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. The ones on the main roster. I actually really like these belts. I think they're really cool looking. I like the strap design itself. I did like the way they blended the nickel and gold plating together. What I really liked was that they are their own. When they first announced them, I remember being afraid they were going to look like the WWE Raw and SmackDown Tag Team Championships, which I absolutely hate. I thought they were just going to make them look the same with a white strap, kind of like they did with the Raw and SmackDown Women's Championships. But they didn't. They put their own design on them, and honestly, I'd be okay with it if they took that design and gave it over to the men too. Like, copy the women's in this time, because this is much better looking than the men's tag team championships right now. And at number 8, the Ring of Honor Women's World Championship. I've talked about it before. This one took some time to grow on me. When I first saw it, I wasn't actually happy with it. Not because it wasn't a good-looking design, but at the time, that was the same design as the ROH World Championship, but looked like it was squished down together. However, as time has gone on, not only has it grown on me, but there's been several women's champions, and it actually looks good on them, which is the most important thing about a championship. And also now it stands out since Ring of Honor has gone back to their old-school-looking design. But either way, it is a beautiful championship, and it works. In at number 7, the AEW TBS Championship. First of all, I've talked about it before. I love the concept of it. That instead of a women's tag team championship, which in my opinion, really, I don't see a company that has a deep enough women's roster to justify a tag team championship, AEW went a different way and said, let's just have our own mid-card championship. And it works really well. They do have a deep enough roster for that, despite the fact that the inaugural champion is still the champion because they're making her look better than she really is. However, the belt itself, it is beautiful. It does look extremely similar to the TNT Championship. Only difference is the blue banner and the TBS logo instead of the TNT logo, which is the only reason I kind of like the TNT Championship more. I don't like the baby blue banner. I'm not a big fan of baby blue personally. And I think just the overall design of the TNT logo versus the TBS logo is much better. But still, this one looks really nice. Now if we can just put it on someone else. In at number 6, the second version of the NXT Women's Championship. Of course, one of the things that held it back for me was that it looked too similar to the Men's Championship at the time. The only difference between the men's and the women's was the NXT on this one was nickel, and on the other one it was gold. That was the only difference. Now they looked much more distinct, to the point I would say I like the women's better, but I still hate it because I don't really like the splash abstract art look. I'm really hoping it gets updated very soon. But this was a big step up from the first version of the NXT Women's Championship, which was very plain, very no-thrills looking. This one was definitely better. In at number 5, the GFW Women's Championship. There were 2 versions of this when GFW got absorbed by Impact. For a minute it was GFW, and then they just went to Impact. But the Impact version of this championship, it said Impact on it, and the lettering was surrounded by blue, versus the original was surrounded by green. I like the original one just a little bit better because green happens to be my favorite color. But either way, they were both very beautiful championships. I kind of wish GFW would have had more of a chance to stay around longer. In at number 4, the Women of Honor Championship. This was Ring of Honor's first attempt at a women's championship, and as far as the overall design of it, it was really great. They knocked it out of the park. It was a 3-plate belt, and all the plates were nickel with some purple inlining in there, and it just worked really well. It popped very well. I liked it. I honestly liked this version a lot better than the current Ring of Honor one, but clearly they wanted to drop the whole Women of Honor thing and just say Ring of Honor Women's World Championship. I understand, but I missed the belt. In at number 3, the newest belt that you're going to find on this list, but the newly established IWGP Women's Championship. It's a belt that is technically hosted by 2 companies, New Japan Pro Wrestling and Stardom, the Japanese women's-based wrestling company. I love this belt, even though a lot of people have criticized that it's not original. The main plate looks like the second version of the IWGP Championship. However, that's kind of what I love about it. First of all, I liked that championship. Second, I like that they took an old design and made it new. In the women's version, they've definitely added a few more stones on the main plate, plus their own design in the middle of the main plate, so it looks very similar, but very updated and more modern. Not to mention the 4 side plates are very different. Instead of having 2 plain badges on each side that were basically just blank and said IWGP Champion on them, they've updated them, they've actually got designs on them, and they're designs that reflect the sister company of New Japan Pro Wrestling, Stardom. So I like the infusion, I like the updated look, I absolutely love this belt. In at number 2, the NXT UK Women's Championship. Sadly, NXT UK is gone. I'm hoping for good things when they finally bring in NXT Europe that they've been talking about doing this year. We'll see. But as far as the overall design, I did like this belt. Again, kind of like with other WWE belts though, whether it was NXT or the main roster, I was a little disappointed that it looked so much like the Men's Championship, but the Men's Championship was such a beautiful looking championship in my opinion, I really didn't care. The only difference is white strap versus a black strap, and I would say for these plates, their particular design, I think they worked better on a black than a white, but it was still very beautiful, still very gorgeous, and ultimately it went along with the great company that it was. Like I said, WWE's coming out with NXT Europe supposedly this year. Hopefully it'll be just as good. And hopefully they will also have great looking championships like they did in NXT UK. And one that should come as no shocker to anybody, my favorite women's championship of all time so far is the AEW Women's World Championship, their third and current version. Absolutely love this belt the moment I saw it. I remember the pay-per-view it debuted, seeing it on Britt Baker, and thinking, oh my god, that is gorgeous. I was sitting with somebody watching it, and they said they updated it again, and I said, who cares? That is fantastic. I like how AEW is doing a bit of a uniform with their championships, because this championship does look very similar to the now called AEW International Championship, no longer All Atlantic. Plus, with the way the plates connect, it's very similar to the AEW World Championship in and of itself, but it's also its very own distinct design. It also looks like a throwback to the Mid-South North American Championship, which that one I couldn't stand. It's ugly as sin. But this one, the gold and the design texture, it looks so beautiful. Even though there's not a whole lot of color to this one, it's basically just in line with black on the gold, it makes the gold pop. I love it. This is now actually in my top 11 favorite championships of all time, which I will do a video on that someday, updating from the last one. This one is absolutely beautiful. This is the first time I saw a women's championship and said, when they sell the replica, I want it. Which was why I would say out of all the women's championships that have come and gone, this is absolutely 100% my favorite. So there you go. That's my top 11 favorite women's championships. I was very happy to do this video because it meant that there were finally 11 women's championships that I felt were good enough to be listed. Like I said, hopefully that trend continues, that now since they're finally taking women's wrestling very, very seriously, that they take the designs of their own championships very, very seriously. Seriously, do not go back to getting lazy with it. So there you have it, that's my wrestling review this week. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure to hit like. Hit subscribe, hit that little bell so you get notifications when I post new videos, and leave a comment. Tell me if you agree with my list, tell me if you disagree with my list. Tell me which women's championship design is your favorite. Tell me if there are any designs that you feel I shouldn't have left out of this. Love you guys.